Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Cage Talk. Today I have MFC Middleweight Champ, also known for his 21 bout career in the UFC, and the finalist, season 4 of The Ultimate Fighter. We have Patrick, the Predator Cote. How you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good, man. Thanks.
Yeah, man. I like your background, man. The Ultimate Fighter. Again, like you said, you were also on the Ultimate Fighter, and then you coached the Ultimate Fighter. So that's got to be pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that was an amazing experience. Listen, that was pretty crazy. You know, everybody was freaking out about being locked down in a house, but we were in a million mansion house in Vegas, eating whatever we wanted, like for $40 freaking steak every night.
Nice.
You know, I used to be in the army before, so I went 6 months in Bosnia. So being locked down in the house like that in Las Vegas, training twice a day with Randy Couture and George St. Pierre, that was easy for me, man.
Yeah, that was one of the things I remember. I've talked to several fighters that were on the Ultimate Fighter as well. I talked to Shoney Carter, Chris Lytle, that also did the comeback. And for the most part, most of them weren't too bad, but those were like the veteran fighters. But the fighters that never were in like any of that, like they never fought in the UFC and their first time, they had a hard time being away, being isolated and stuff. But for the most part, veteran-wise, they're like, it was another day in the office, man. It was pretty cakewalk.
Yeah, that was in 2006, so I was pretty young. You know, I had 26 years old, so no family, so maybe I didn't have any attached, so that was a little bit easier for me. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
No kids, yeah.
All right, so like I said, we're gonna go through obviously your career, and like you said, you already kind of brought it up where I kind of wanted to talk to you. You went to the Canadian Army young. You went at the age 16, correct?
More 18.
18, and how was that experience? Again, I was never in the Army. I was never in the military here in the United States. I could imagine it might be a little bit different in Canada.
That was, you know what, it's life experience. You know, that was really, really nice. I still have one of my couple best friends in my life. They're from the Army. You know, I spent 6 months in a bunker with a guy that, you know, we share a lot of things, and we're still very close. Even if that was in 2002 when I went to Bosnia. That was cool, man. You know, I always say that I will never go back in the Army because I think it's a freaking mess how they manage the Army. There's too many people who can decide, so nobody decides. So that's the problem. And but I will never regret my time over there. You know, I learned a lot. It gave me, you know, maybe a life discipline that I needed to be a professional athlete after. And you know, that was a crazy life experience.
Did you start mixed martial arts in the Army?
Yes, but not because of the Army. That was on my personal time. But when I started to box and doing some jiu-jitsu when I was in the Army.
Okay, and that's where you kind of wanted to. That's where your basic, like your life goal was to become a MMA person, or no, you weren't looking at doing as a profession?
At the beginning, you know, that was a pretty underground. You know, I'm from like in 1999, 2000. No, that was that was not like today. So I didn't take that very seriously at the beginning. And I started doing that. You know, I fell in love with the sport. I started doing some professional fight when I was in the Army. And when I got the call for the UFC in 2004. I was supposed to fight Marvin Eastman, but, you know, the story that I fought Tito Ortiz, you know, I wanted to get back. I wanted to get out of the Army just to try to be a professional athlete in that sport. So I broke my contract in the Army, and I tried to be a full-time fighter. And, you know, it's, you know, that was crazy. That was jumping, you know, off a plane without parachute. You know,
exactly.
Yeah, at that time, that was like that. But you know what? It's the story. It's after
no regrets, man.
The story, no regrets at all.
Absolutely. And again, let's jump right into it. Like you said, your first UFC debut was against Tito Ortiz, man. First of all, Guy Mesger was supposed to fight him. He pulled out. He got an injury. You step in on 4 days' notice, man. That's first of all, that's ballsy as hell. Especially that Tito Ortiz back then when he was just up and coming. He was starting to get all this. He was the hype man, and you come in here, you lose, decision, but you still they were so impressed about your performance and stuff. If you can explain that fight and your mindset going in, especially on 4 days' notice, I think a lot of people don't understand how difficult that is, regardless of you being in shape and stuff.
Yeah. But first of all, I was supposed to fight on that card anyway. I was supposed to fight Marvin Eastman on the first fight of the prelim when there was nobody
no one's in the crowd.
In the arena, nobody was there. And 4 days after, I was in front of the guy who wore my screensaver, Tito Ortiz. I used to call my dog Tito, too. I was a golden retriever. So it was kind of an icon for me. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of crazy. And you know what? I don't believe in chance. I don't believe in luck. I believe in opportunities. And that's what they gave me when they offered me that fight, because I was the last one they called to accept that fight. So that means that everybody before me, they got the call. They said, fuck that. Yeah, we don't go there on 4 days notice. I was young. I was naive. And for me, that was, a great opportunity to go in the UFC, buy the big door. My first fight in the UFC against my idol in the main event of the UFC 50. Yep. You can't have bigger than that. And like you said, I lost the fight, but I think I won the night. I always say that. We talk to each other today because of that fight. I have the kind of life I have today because I accept that fight on 4 days' notice. Everything I have today, everything I built after that fight, it's because of that decision in my life.
Isn't that crazy how not something so small, but just one fight, one decision, you could have easily said no, and your life could have completely went the other way. I mean, it could have been negative, it could have been positive, regardless. But like you said, it made you who you are today, and what you built after. It's pretty crazy, man. Life's pretty crazy.
Absolutely. And you know what? This fight will always get, on my skin. You know what I mean? That means that even 12 years after my UFC debut, on my last fight against Thiago Alves, they were showing, clips of that fight when they were talking to me, like walking into the octagon. So this is the fight that everybody will remember as my debut in the UFC. But that's the kind of fight that defined myself as an athlete in that sport too.
Definitely, man. And it's one of those fights that you still look back to, and it's such a good fight and stuff. And again, like, you had a bunch of battles, but your beginning in UFC wasn't the greatest. It was kind of rocky. You were almost 0-4, and then all of a sudden, bam, you changed it all around. Again, you went to the Ultimate Fighter, the comeback, and that's after that is where you your career spiked up again. And if you can talk to me, like we said, we were talking a little bit about, obviously, the Ultimate Fighter, the show. I mean, you fought George Rivera, and then at the end, you were the finalist, and you lost to Travis Luther. But, he went to fight on to fighting Anderson Silva. Matt Serra won, ended up fighting GSP. And, I mean, the rest is history, man. If you can elaborate a little bit about, that show and your career there.
I lost my first 3 fights in the UFC before going to the Ultimate Fighter. But I was very close fight. Not the Tito one, but that was my first fight in the UFC. But after that, against Joe Dorkson, my first fight at 185, that was in a new weight class. I was destroying him. The first 2 rounds, I think I won 10-8 the first 2 rounds. I was rocking very bad, but I wasn't able to finish him. In the 3rd round, I did a rookie mistake on the ground. He was a BJJ black belt. I was a blue belt, he took my back and he choked me out. That was a really, really tough loss because I was so in control of that fight. So everybody saw that, you have a great potential. This guy, he's not the real deal, but he can give us, really good fights and very exciting show in the fight in the UFC. After that, I went on the first Ultimate Fight Night against Chris Lieben.
Chris Lieben, yeah.
We did probably one of the best fight of the year. That was crazy. 15 minutes in the middle of the octagon, just throwing bombs.
Yeah.
And you know, I lost the fight by split decision. That was a really, really tough decision.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It's okay. But if the fight were in Canada, probably I would want that fight.
Yeah,
but we're in the US. I'm not saying that I got the robbery. I got robbed. No, but it was like that. I was so close that I understand that they gave him.
Could have gone either way. Yeah.
Exactly. So after I was 0-3 in the UFC, I was like, man, I have the curse of the octagon, man. How can I? You know, I gave all the time a good performance, but I'm not able to buckle, you know, everything up to win the fight. And they asked me to go to the UFC, to the Ultimate Fighter. So they called it the comeback. Yep. So there was already, you know, fighters who fought in the UFC with a losing record, but with a great potential.
Yep.
So it was Matt Serra, Chris Lytle, Dean Thomas, Riviera, Edwin DeWeese, Rich Clementi, Shoney Carter. It was, you know,
you had a good lift.
A ton of guys who had already a name in the sport. Mm-hmm. So that was the concept of that fight. And finally, my first fight against Jorge Rivera inside the house, I won the fight. So I was like, oh, man, finally, that was a big relief. I won in the semis against Edwin DeWeese. Mm-hmm. And, you know, in the final, I lost in the first round by submission. That was really, really this one, it was hurting. This one was hard because in the video before the fight, you know, in the introduction, mm-hmm. he said exactly
what he was going to do,
what he was going to do. And you know what? That was exactly what happened. I was like, man, Jesus, fuck. And so after that, you know, it was pretty hard, but they gave me one more fight just to prove myself against Scott Smith at UFC 67. And finally, I won the fight. I won by decision, but after that, I was like, oh, man, what a freaking relief that, you know, it's not the curse of the octagon. That was just a little detail sometimes just to win the fight. Mm-hmm. And after that, I won my five fights in a row after that through the title fight.
Yep, you won. You beat Kendall Grove in it was a TKO. Drew McFeveries, I remember that fight. TKO. Ricardo Almeida. That was another fight and you were just taking off. You were just one by one, and then obviously it led you to fighting possibly the greatest middleweight of all time. We have Anderson Silva, and I mean, at that time, you were the only person to take Anderson Silva to the third round. Unfortunately, you got injured and stuff like that. It was a great fight. If you can explain prepping for that middleweight fighting Anderson Silva and your game plan for that championship fight. Before that, let me turn off. Let me close my garage because there's a damn bug out there or something. It's making noises.
Do it, man. Sorry.
All right. Sorry, that I don't know what the hell it was. It was driving me nuts every time you were talking. I heard it. All right. So my bad. Sorry about that. So go on. So explain to everyone, especially fighting Anderson Silva, your game plan going in. Were you just trying to stand up? Go ahead. The floor is yours.
You know, it's really hard to fight to train for a fighter like that, like Anderson Silva. That, you know, every time you train for fighters, you try to find some training partner who's gonna, you know, replicate the style of your opponent. Yes. That was impossible to do with Anderson Silva. You know, it was, especially at that time, he was like on the top of the food chain. He was like unbeatable. He was like untouchable. It was crazy. And you know, the thing is, in my head, I was like, I'm going there, full throttle, showing no respect, showing that I'm in control of myself. And if you knock me out anyway, I'm not gonna remember it. So that was my kind of thinking I had. And during the training, you know, we're watching tapes, and we saw that every time he fought a guy, all those guys were so intimidating. They were losing the fight before the first round.
Fight happened, yep.
So we were like, man, this guy is made like skin and blood like me. Mm-hmm. So if I'm able to touch it, if I'm able just to put, you know, some great pace, mm-hmm. and be out of his range, and not falling in the trap that he's a really good counter puncher, and just staying at the right distance and passing the first two rounds because we wanted to open more in the third and fourth and maybe fifth round, because it was the first time in the UFC to go in the third round for him.
Yep.
And I was preparing myself. When I did that in front of the camera in the third round, I thought about that, a month before the fight. I was like, if I'm going the third round, I'm going to show to everybody that, fuck it, man.
Was that part of your game plan, like trying to get into his head, like, damn, like this guy hasn't gone away, like it's the third round? Was that was just something you wanted to do regardless, just because it was third round? That's pretty cool.
No, absolutely. Everything was to show him that he wasn't in my head. So everything was like that, because he was so intimidating by his aura, by him, by the person, by Anderson Silva. Everybody was freaking out just by the name, by Anderson Silva. Definitely. And I wasn't. I was respecting him. I was really complicated to fight him. I was going forward. He was on my side. I was going on my side. He was on my back. It was, man, stop moving. that was very complicated. And that's always the same answer. Every time that people ask me, how was it to fight Anderson Silva? That was complicated. It didn't hit me hard. It didn't hurt me. I hurt myself. I hurt myself. But that was so complicated, because the first minute of the fight, you have to understand his style. You have to understand how he's moving, because I wasn't able to try to find a training partner in the gym to replicate that. So that was really, 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 really complicated. But you know what? Even if the end of that fight was bad, that was the bad luck and the worst moment of my life. That was my pinnacle of my career, a title fight in the UFC. That was everybody's dreaming about that.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm in peace with that, and nobody will never be able to take that away from me. That I fought for the middleweight title in the UFC.
Definitely, man. And again, it was such a good fight too. And I was rewatching that fight. Was it the second round where your knee kind of buckled a little bit? I saw you kind of dropped. You weren't going for a shot. I think your knee buckled already in the second. Was that what happened? And then it just gave out in the third?
Actually, what happened? It's I slipped on the logo in the middle of the octagon. So I switched stance. I went southpaw. And I tried to go forward, and my front leg, that was my right leg, slip and go hyperextension. So my ligament just popped out. So my knee was really, really weak for the rest of the second round. And when I came back in my corner, I said to my corner, I said, man, seriously, my knee's fucked. My knees, I can't put any weight on that. It's done. It's finished. And he said, I was a little bit panicking, but for a reason.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, what do you want to do? You want me to throw a towel? I said, listen, I'm going there. I'm going to try to throw a Hail Mary. I have power. Yeah. So if I clip him, who knows? Never know. Definitely. And the third round start, I did that in camera. I was like, okay, at least I'm going to do something. I'm going to show him that I'm hurt. And, the second I tried to go inside, I put all the weight on my knee, on my leg, on my right leg. And I felt my knee and my shin going like side to side. Bah! And I just felt on the ground. And, that's funny because I received, after the fight, I received a lot of trashing, a bashing, because everybody thought that I was faking because I was able to walk after. But that's the thing. If your ligament is completely broken, it's going to hurt like hell for like 2 minutes. But after that, it doesn't hurt. It's just very unstable. It's just very but if it's still attached, it's going to hurt for a long time. But if it's like two-piece like that in the air, doesn't matter. It's going to snap, hurt.
Gotcha.
And after that, it's okay. It's just very unstable. And, but, I was out for a year and a half. So after the 6 months, I think people start to believe me that I was really injured. So that's the key.
Oh man, that's. Oof. I mean, I never experienced an injury like that, but I mean, from the looks of your face, you can tell. I mean, there's no faking that, man. Again, after that, so you went from the UFC, and then you went to another promotion. After that was Montreal Ringside MMA promotion, where you fought a couple times in there. How was that promotion, and how did you actually get hooked onto that one?
The thing is, after the title fight, I was out for a year and a half. I came back in UFC 113 in Montreal here against Alan Belcher, and I thought I was over the ring Ross. I thought it was like, man, ring Ross is for somebody else, but it hit me very hard when I started the fight. Everything was so fast, though, a lot faster than I thought. And I lost that fight in Montreal. It's kind of the gray zone. He did like a pile driver, and it's kind
On your head,
gray zone. But and after that, he choked me out. And at UFC 121, after that, I fought Tom Lawler. Probably the worst fight in my life. Probably the worst fight in my career. And he completely out-wrestled me. He was playing with me. Seriously, that wasn't good at all. And they kicked me out. So they kicked me out, and I went back to ringside, like you said. That was, you need to have a lot of humility to going back 2 years after you fought for the title against Anderson Silva, and you did probably at that time one of the best performances from an opponent of him. And 2 years after, you're fighting in the local arena here in front of 500 people, and you're getting paid shit. And you try just to climb back, the ladder to going back in the UFC. It's tough, man. It's, for the proud, for the humility, it's insane, man. It's disgusting. But you know what? That's the beauty of that sport too. This sport is so hard that when everything's going well, you're a freaking superstar. But when everything's going wrong, it's your fault. You have your destiny in your hand. Yep. So that's exactly what I said to myself. I said, okay, I have the destiny in my hand. So they kicked me out of the UFC. And I said, okay, I'm going back there. I will go back to the UFC. I don't know when, but I will go back. And it took me 4 fights, 2 years. In 2012, I came back in the UFC.
Yep, that was July 7th, 2012. You fought at UFC 148 against Chung Lee, and you beat him.
Yeah.
There you go, man.
I lost that fight.
You did?
Yeah, I lost that fight, but that was really, really close. I lost that fight against Kong Lee. I was replacing.
Decision, right? It was a decision.
Yeah, exactly. I was replacing Wanderlei Silva. Actually, I was replacing Wanderlei Silva, and I knew it that I was like, if I come back to the UFC, it's gonna be like because of an injury, a short notice. And I was staying ready. I knew it. I was talking to Joe Silva at that time almost every week. And he was like, yeah, it's coming. Don't worry. You're the next on the list. Because always, since the Tito fight that I saved the UFC 50, even if they kick me out, even if they fire me, I always had a great relationship with the UFC. Always good communication. And I understand it's a business, man. If you lose fight, bro, it's a business. You're gonna get kicked out. That's okay. And he was saying, stay ready. And that fight happened. Probably one of the biggest card of the history. That was Charles Sonnen and Anderson Silva.
Anderson Silva, yeah.
So that was this card was crazy. It was Conor McGregor was on that fight. It was Dominic Cruz was on that fight. It was an insane fight. And that was a tough fight. Actually, he broke his foot on my head, so that was kind of a relief that, okay, I lost the fight, but actually, man, you hurt yourself. And but because that was a late replacement, they gave me another fight. They gave me another chance to stay in the UFC, and that was a really, really good fight against Congi. That was probably not the best fight of the night, but maybe the second. That was a good fight. So I fought Alessio Sakara in Montreal here. That was my last fight at 185. I won by DQ. I was
punching the back of the head.
My head. Exactly. Yep. And after that, I decided to drop at 170, and I gave myself another 4 years in that sport because I dropped at 170.
All right. And dropping weight, it's a it's a big thing, especially nowadays. They should have more weight classes and stuff like that. But again, like you were saying, it's kind of ironic how your first start into the UFC is getting a call because someone's injured, and then after them kicking you out, then them calling you back saying, hey, someone's injured, can you replace them? So, but again, it just shows your mentality and how focused you are. Like you said, you went to the Montreal Ringside, and you said that I mean, some fighters can't take that. They're very prideful, and they won't do that. They're like, oh, well, I fought, and they'll continue. Oh, I fought, Anderson Silva 2 years ago. I'm not going to fight it here. But you kind of put that to the side, man. You put your pride aside, and you still continue doing work, man. So that's very honorable, and that's awesome, man.
You know what? That's a lot of people ask me that. What I'm proud of my career. The most proud of my career. That's exactly that. Like my resilience.
Yep.
That I never give up. And I didn't understand. Didn't listen. People were bashing me that, oh, you're not a UFC fighter. You're done. You're an has-been. You're that. I was like, man, that's my passion, man. That's what I want to do. And I showed a lot of resilience, and I was able to come back in the UFC, and having an amazing career that a guy people were paying me to be in shape. So that's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. Again, and then you were Ultimate Fighter. You're a coach.
Yeah.
How was that? How's teaching people in front of you? Were on the show. Now you're coaching. That's pretty cool.
It's 10 times harder to be a coach than to be a contestant. Trust me. To be a contestant, just show the gym, you train, you're going back in the house, you drink, you eat, and that's it. When you're a coach, I don't know, man. You always think about the next training. You always think about, you're not locked up. That's a great thing, but it's a lot of work if you are a great coach. So I mean, I was caring about those guys. Definitely. The first speech I gave them in the locker room, I said, listen, guy, I don't care about the camera here. I already made my name. My wrestling coach that I brought with me, he went to the Olympic Games. He doesn't give a shit. Everybody knows him too. My jiu-jitsu coach was world champion many times of jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I told them, we are here for you guys.
Yeah.
If you don't take advantage of that, that's your problem. But I'm gonna work hard for you because I've been there. I know exactly what's your mentality and what your situation right now. So I understand. So I think that's why everything went pretty well. And I'm not gonna lie. At the beginning, we had a lot more skills on our side than on the Australian side. And it's like that. I did a great job of coaching, but at the beginning, we're better.
Yeah, definitely. And again, your last fight in the UFC, when you decided to hang it up, did you think right after the fight, were you already planning that? Was that something, like you said it was 4 years that you kind of had a set goal of going out and stuff like that? And if you can walk through that, and do you have any regrets at all? And if you do, what are they? And like I said, is there one person that you would like to come back if you could redo it again and fight again? Who would it be? Just out of curiosity.
Actually, everybody already beat me because I chose my character in the UFC play video game, so I put that on very easy, and I just kicked the shit out of everybody already. Right? Exactly. But seriously, when I dropped my gloves in my last fight, that was a decision I took like a month before. I knew it. Even it's not because I lost the fight. It's with a win, I will be 10 times better just to get out with a win. But there will be that win or lose. That will be my last fight. That I knew that. I knew that, and that was enough. I gave 15 years of my life in that sport. I was starting a family at that time in 2017, and I gave a lot of myself in that sport. It's very selfish. That sport, you have to be very selfish. If not, you're not gonna have any success. So I was tired to be selfish. I did everything you think that it's possible in that sport. You know, I fought a main event. I fought my idols. I fought a title fight. I coach, and I was in the Ultimate Fighter.
You did everything, man.
There's nothing else that I can do. And when I fought Donald Cerrone, that was that fight that decided, okay, if I win, I'm going for another title run. If I lost, that means I'm not good enough now to be in the top 5 in the 170 pound division. In my mind, I was like, I'm not going to do that to be second, because I was already planning my after career. I was already set for 2 years before I took my retirement on fighting. I was set. You know, I placed my thing, I placed my shit, and I was fighting because I wanted to, not because I needed to. So, gotcha. Exactly. So the thing was I'm really proud of. It's, you know, I went out of the UFC, of that sport, on my own terms. Nobody kicked me out. It's not because I wasn't able to fight anymore. I think that, you know, probably I had maybe 1 or 2 more fight love, exactly. But, you know, at what cost? Because in my last 2 fights, I got hit harder than in my last 15 years on this fight. Why? Because I'm getting slow. I'm getting old, and, you know, and I fought 2 veterans at the end of my career. So I was like, okay, if I fought, you know, a young guy with a big punching power, maybe it's going to drop me. Maybe it's going to knock me out. And I've never been KO in my life.
No.
So I was like, okay. And, you know, I just had my little girl in 2017. She had 1 year old. And I was like, you know what? When she'll have like 6 or 7, 8 years old, she will want to know what I was doing before. And she will go to the internet, YouTube, and she will never be able to find some picture or video of me that freaking KO on the canvas and shaking like that. And I didn't want that. So that was the kind of the last thing that put like the end of my decision. And I took that decision, and I'm really, really in peace with that. You asked me about regrets. Seriously, I have no regrets.
Good.
Absolutely none. The thing that I always wanted to do, it's, you know, fighting some kind of my favorite fighters, like Carlos Condit, Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler, you asked me about regrets, probably it's the only one. Not sharing the cage with Robbie Lawler, because he's one of my favorite fighters of all time. I used to like him, you know, watching him fighting. I like his style. He's
aggressive.
He's a pure brother who don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my style too. So that's, if you ask me regrets, that's the only one.
That's the only one. Again, regret will if you had any regret, I feel like regret will get you back in the cage. The fact that you don't have regrets, my friend, is fine. You left it all in the cage. Fan wise,
I don't miss the sport. You know, I don't miss it. I don't miss it. I will always miss the walk to the octagon. Bruce Buffer yelling my name in front of 20,000 people here in Montreal at the Bell Center, just singing song with my last name. I will always missing that. But it's in my head. I live that. You know, I know exactly what it is. So it's not enough for me to say that, okay, I want to come back, because I don't miss the sport.
That's good, man. Again, we all love you. I'm still a big fan. Watch your fights. I mean, you're extremely busy too. I have you on Instagram. I think you were doing the news again. It's in, I think it's in French, but I mean, I look at it like, oh, okay, there's you know, Patrick. But again, like you said, we talked earlier, and you're like, yeah, I was doing a movie. So again, outside of the UFC, you're doing a bunch of stuff. A lot of it looks like reporting, and then the news, and you're also doing movie stuff. So good for you, man. It looks like you hit your stride in that department. So I wish you nothing.
I'm like the French Joe Rogan. You know, I'm the French official voice of the UFC since 12 years. Where I'm commentating the fights since 12 years in French. You know, I'm an owner of a sport complex. I have another company that's doing it in the medical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a lot. I'm working a lot of media here, but yeah, I'm just starting to shoot a couple movies and playing some acting things left and right. So yeah, everything is good, man. And I just have a new baby boy born like a month ago. So
There you go, man.
I,
Congratulations. I saw
I'm
that.
pretty busy, and I'm still doing what I like. So you know what? It's everything's good.
Hey, that's awesome, man. Congratulations on your baby boy, and nothing but happiness for your family, brother. Again,
Thanks, man.
been watching you, and we all love you, and thank you for everything you left in the octagon, man. No regrets. Love watching you, bud. All right.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I
All right.
appreciate that.
No problem, man. You have a good one, ladies and gentlemen. Patrick Cote.